Welcome to Radically Rewired, the show where I fuse science and spirituality to give tangible tips to feel more confident, get more clarity, and live your most authentic and fulfilling life. I'm your host, Nicole Novoselsky, a former 9-to-5 desk job gal turned traveling entrepreneur, energy healer, and brain hacking yogi. This podcast is all about how to stop going through the motions and make the most of your human experience here on this earth. So let's learn how to get radically rewired. Greetings from Guatemala. Yes, I am still here at San Marcos La Laguna, but I plan to take a little road trip through Guatemala and up to Belize shortly. So stay tuned to find out where I end up. But today is a very special episode. I mean, they're all special episodes, but I'm so excited to dive into today's episode. Why? Because we're going to be talking about shadow work. What the heck is shadow work? It's a huge buzzword now in the spiritual and healing community. Even though shadow work has been around since Carl Jung, back in 1912 when he coined this term in his book, The Psychology of the Unconscious. And Carl Jung is our guy. He's a Swiss psychoanalyst who really talks about the shadow self. But it's still something that's so mysterious. What is shadow work? And how do we even do it? Well, I am so excited to dive into it today and break down what shadow work is and even give you prompts to start to ponder your own shadow side. Because we want to shine light on our shadow and what's been holding us back in order to move forward. That is the goal here. So for the first big chunk of my life, I felt like I was living with blinders on. I was going through the motions of life without really being aware of my thoughts, my actions, my patterns. I was deeply miserable and I didn't understand why. I was superficially doing everything the self-help books told me to do. I was reading so many self-help books. I was meditating. I was doing yoga. I was journaling. I packed my schedule with things that I thought would bring me joy. But for some reason, I was still miserable. At that point, it felt like I was just adding more and more and more paint to an already painted canvas, or adding more and more clothes to an outfit without stripping down and taking the other items off. I needed to either white out the canvas and start over, or strip me down nude so I could have a fresh, new, kickin', bangin' outfit. But sometimes we're just putting more stuff on a not steady foundation. So we have to clear everything out and rebuild the foundation and start to build from there. That's what we're going to do here, is we're going to go into our conditioning and clear out some of the junk so that we can start fresh and start to call in what it is we really truly want. Going to Bali was this for me. So oftentimes people are like, okay, but Bali is a smoke and mirrors. Like, of course you're going to be happy and healed there. But it was the first time that I had finally listened to what I wanted instead of everyone else telling me what I should do and what path I should take. It was the time when I was like, no, I want to do this. So I am booking my flight and I'm quitting my job and I'm packing everything up and I'm going for me, not for anyone else, but for me. And by doing that, that was a huge signal to the universe of like, okay, hey, I'm ready. Let's see what's going to unfold for me. Now, leaving your hometown doesn't mean that all of your problems are just poof, magically solved. In fact, I think they become amplified. Why? Because now your conditioning, your trauma, and your thought patterns, they can't hide and disguise themselves in the everyday norm of your habits that you're doing. You now are plopped into a new world where you have to face your triggers and your patterns head on. You're out of your old web, So your conditioning starts to stick out like a needle in a haystack. And I always say, wherever you go, there you are. That's why it's so important to face yourself. You are in your mind 24/7. So it's really important to understand what the thought patterns are so that you can shift and change them to actually align with who you want to be and where you want to go. But you always have options. You can confront yourself and take off the blinders, or you can double on down and commit to your old conditioning and push it down real good and hold on tight to those blinders. The choice is up to you, and both are hard and easy in their own ways. Being in Bali was incredibly healing and helpful, but also incredibly jarring and confronting. It brought to the surface how much anxiety and how much looping thought patterns I really truly had, and how they were controlling my life, and highlighted where I could use way more self love instead of desperately seeking external validation. Now, cue the shadow work. Dun 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 dun. I swear I need to have my own sound panel. So because Bali stripped me bare and it gave me the time and space to look at myself through a new lens, it was like this bird's eye view perspective. I was able to objectively see the patterns going on in my life. I saw where I was playing small, keeping myself stuck, the same old stories in my work, in my relationships, and in my ability to bring in financial abundance. So that begs the question, I still haven't answered it yet. What the heck is shadow work? Well, great question. In order to understand shadow work, let's talk about what we are used to, light work. Light work is illuminating the lightness around us. It's complementing ourselves. It's highlighting what we're good at, what our strengths are, where we are succeeding. A lot of mentors and teachers talk about this, that you simply need to keep going and have patience on your path in order to get what you want. Put in the work. You got this. You go. Woo! That's all well and good. However, if you have a lot of shadows of conditioning that you don't believe you're good enough, or you have a lot of different thoughts on money that's holding you back, you have all these hurdles that are keeping you stuck, just consistently putting in the work and going for it, you're going to self-sabotage and not actually get there. Now, shadow work is shining light on the dark parts of us. Our patterns that keep us looping, our fears, our anxiety, our subconscious thoughts that are underneath the surface. There is so much going on in our brains at all times. We're constantly processing so much information at any given moment. In fact, according to data scientist Pragwa Agarwal, our minds are processing 11 million bits per second. Holy moly, that's a lot. Yet our conscious mind, we cannot be processing 11 million things consciously, but we're able to process about 40 to 50 bits per second. So that's a huge gap. That means there's so much going on that we are not consciously aware of, which makes sense. Think about it this way. There's so much going on around us. What we're wearing, the colors around us, the sensations on our skin, the smells in the air, the energy people around us are giving off, the energy we're giving off, how we're feeling inside, the conversations near us, background noise, all of the things. So much. Our brains are scanning always to understand the bigger picture of what's going on around us, and scanning to see how we should feel if we're in a fearful or dangerous situation, or if we can relax and be joyous. There's so much happening. We are only consciously aware of like 5% of what's happening in our brains. The other 95% is subconscious. Now, shadow work and the subconscious go hand in hand. The best way I personally can describe the subconscious is that it's all of our beliefs that we've picked up from around us, from growing up, from our society, from our family, our environments, our parents, our living situation. I want you to think about money. You may be consciously aware that you want to make 6 or 7 figures a year or a month, who knows, wherever you're at. However, subconsciously, You may have a belief that making 6 or 7 figures would be greedy, since your family lived paycheck to paycheck while you were growing up, and you heard your parents always saying that you had what you needed and you didn't need any more. So you may have subconsciously been holding yourself back, keeping yourself stuck at what feels comfortable, maybe 40 to 80 grand a year, because making any more than that would be on a deeper subconscious level. You would feel greedy and you would feel shameful for having more money. But you're not necessarily conscious that you would feel greedy. You just feel that on a deeper subconscious level. Because consciously you're like, why aren't I making more money? Of course I would want to make 100 grand, a million, whatever it is a year. But subconsciously, do you feel worthy enough to make that much money? Do you feel like it's going to be really hard and you need to put in so many hours to make that money? So you may be sitting and meditating and praying to the universe, please, universe, I'd love to make $100,000 or $1 million or however much money a year. Please, 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 please. But until you address your shadows and your subconscious beliefs, your money needle will hold steady around where you feel comfortable, because that's where the subconscious is keeping you stuck. Think about love. You may want to call in a loving, compassionate, healthy relationship, but then on a subconscious level, you've always felt not good enough and you need to prove yourself in order to get love. So you keep attracting in people who give you a tiny bit of love and then pull away. I might be talking about myself here, but maybe this resonates with you, or maybe it's just a little bit different. Maybe you're the one who's running away because you don't want the commitment, right? It really differs for everyone's situation. But what stays the same is that, of course, until we address the part of us that is keeping us stuck, that feels unworthy, that's afraid of commitment, we're going to keep self-sabotaging any relationship that actually feels loving and healthy. And that could be on a subconscious level. Shadow work ultimately is bringing to light what's going on underneath the surface and understanding what our thought patterns are so that we can shift and change them to really, 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 truly magnetize what it is that we want. So then you might be thinking, okay, Nicole, that's all well and good, but how the heck am I actually going to shift and change to magnetize my dream goals and life? Let's get into it then in our next segment called Transformation Tactics. Shadow Work 101. It starts a little something like this. We have to understand the subconscious mind. We have to understand that we have subconscious patterns and thoughts that we're operating from just our conscious mind, but there's so much going on underneath the surface. We already talked about this. So that's the first step, is just understanding that there's a lot going on there. And once you understand that, then you can start to pick a little magnifying glass and dive in and see, ooh, what is underneath there? You can begin to dive into these shadowy thoughts with a curious mind instead of a judgmental mind. We're not going in and being like, ugh, why do we do the things we do? It's like, okay, why? What's coming up? What happened for us that we're acting in this way? And we're giving ourselves love and compassion without judgment or shame, because that's just going to make this loop and cycle a little bit worse. We want to come in lovingly. Now, the golden rule here is that in order to change the subconscious shadowy thoughts, we have to shine light on them. How do we actually look at what's underneath there? Well, let's give you some prompts that will spark up some subconscious thought patterns. First things first, I want you to set the scene. In order for the shadow to come up, we need to feel safe. So I want you to calm the mind and body, find a nice comfortable position, and then you'll breathe in through the nose, fill the belly with air, and set an intention to witness with curiosity instead of daggers. Sometimes we chase ourselves down, holding daggers to kill off these shadowy parts of ourselves. But how can we put the daggers down and simply hold flashlights with curiosity? Instead of trying to kill the old parts of ourselves, we're simply trying to get to know these parts so that they feel safe enough to transmute. So to know what subconscious beliefs you hold, let's ask some questions to ourselves to allow the subconscious thoughts to appear. One of my favorite activities that you can do is what I call a brain dump. You can let the subconscious flow by simply setting a timer and setting up these prompts, writing down these prompts, and just allowing yourself to write stream of consciousness style. So you're just writing whatever comes to mind instead of trying to curate the perfect sentence or whatever. You're literally just letting the words flow. So write down some of these prompts and answer them whatever comes top of mind. So the first question is, what is your current goal? In your love life, in your work life, in your business, in your finances, in your personal development? Think about what your goals are. Then once you have a goal in mind, you're going to ask yourself, what is the advantage of reaching this goal? Now, the advantage might be, okay, yeah, I have a partner to do things with, or now I'm making more money and I don't have to worry and I don't have to stress, or whatever it is. But then I want you to ask yourself, what is the disadvantage of reaching this goal? So if you do get a lot more money, maybe you'll feel overwhelmed. Maybe you'll feel like people won't treat you the same. If you do get a partner, maybe you'll feel stuck, like you don't have the freedom to do whatever it is that you really want. We're really trying to see what the disadvantage is. Let that shadowy part show of what's maybe subconsciously blocking us from getting what we want. Then I want you to think of your current life situation. What are you currently attracting into your life? Whether that be in your job, in your relationships, what's coming into your life? Then I want you to ask yourself, why do you think you're attracting these things? And if they're great things, what are you doing that's attracting in these great things? If they're not so great things, why are these things coming up? What lessons are here for you to learn with these situations? Now, instead of what you're currently attracting, I want you to think of, what do you want to be attracting in your life? Maybe it is that partner. Maybe it is just ease and flow. Maybe it is just things working out for you. You're feeling excited. You're feeling happy. Now, what kind of energy and person do you have to step into in order to attract this into your life? Now, if you really want to have that partner, what energy do you need to step into to attract that person? Are you stepping into that energy? Or are you blocking yourself? What is blocking you from stepping into that energy? If you want to have a successful business, what kind of person do you have to show up as to have that successful business? What kind of thoughts do you have to have? What kind of actions are you doing? And then is there something blocking you from having those thoughts, from taking those actions? And then really being honest with yourself of what that is. And again, there's no shame or there's no judgment. We're just bringing all of this to the surface, all of this to light, because shadow work is all about, the first step is just bringing it to light so that you can become aware of it and then take different actions moving forward. From here, it's so important to be extra kind and gentle to yourself and know that we're all human on this journey. We all have shadows. We all have stuff that's coming up. And whether you see other people who you feel like are thriving and killing it, they have their own stuff too. So not comparing and just coming back to ourselves. And this is our starting point. How amazing that you're taking the first step to start to bring these things to light so that you can transmute them. I want to give you a real life example of how to do this. So let me relate it to my own life in our next segment called Soulful Saga Time. Dun, 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 dun. So as I have mentioned before, a lot of my life I didn't feel good enough. I wanted to make a certain amount of money. I wanted to call in more love. I wanted to look a certain way, and it wasn't happening. So time and time again, I had to sit with myself. And remember, this isn't a one and done practice. This is something you can continuously be working on. And I realized that for money, I didn't feel worthy enough to make a lot of money. And if I did, I felt guilty or shameful that there's so many people out there who have way less than me. So I have to barely make enough to get by in order to not be greedy. And I had this subconscious belief that people with a lot of money are rude and inconsiderate and not compassionate, which doesn't always have to be true. But I didn't want to be inconsiderate and not compassionate. So I was keeping myself stuck at this low amount of money because I thought that that was noble for some reason. Subconsciously. Consciously, I wanted to make a lot of money, but subconsciously, I was like, it's noble not to make a lot of money and I have to work hard and I'm going to work hard for my paycheck to paycheck. So when I first started my business, I wasn't fully confident in what I was providing, that I was subconsciously pushing clients away. And so we all have these certain limiting beliefs and mindset blocks. And shadow work is just shining light on what they are and where we're holding ourselves back. And it's not to beat ourselves up over it. It's to bring it to light so that we can be like, okay, I realize that that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to shift, I'm going to think differently and act differently in order to transmute that and actually call in what it is that I'm really truly wanting. If you're wanting more help to dive into your shadows to transmute them and magnetize your dream life and your dream goals, take a look at my Freedom Fast Track membership and my VIP Freedom Fast Track Accelerator. In these programs, we rewire the brain, and we're also learning different mindfulness techniques in order to transmute our shadows and actually really fully call in what it is we want. So many times we're working towards our dream goals and we're like, why isn't it happening? Why isn't it happening? When you do shadow work, it will most definitely help set you on the path to where you want to go. So if you've been working towards your goals for a long time and you're like, why am I still stuck? Let's work on it together in my Freedom Fast Track membership. Or if you want a one-on-one VIP approach, I have some spots available there. Take a look at both or shoot me a message and connect. We can even hop on a call and see what will be best for you. I'd love to connect with you. So now that we talked a little tiny bit about the brain, I want to really understand what's going on up in this noggin of ours. So let's talk about two key players in our brains that help us process our emotions and manifest what we want in our next segment called Neuro Nugget. Our next segment called Neuro Nugget. All right, we're going to give the spotlight to two brain regions that play pivotal roles in our everyday functioning. In our boxing ring corner, in one corner, standing tall, we got the anterior cingulate cortex, the ACC. In the other boxing ring in the other corner is the prefrontal cortex, the PFC. First up in the spotlight is the anterior cingulate cortex, or as I like to call it, the brain's multitasker extraordinaire. So this is situated right in the frontal part of our brain, and the ACC is like our brain's air traffic controller. It's overseeing our attention, it's detecting errors, it's managing conflicting information, and it's also a key player in emotional regulation, helping you navigate life's ups and downs, because we all know life can be a big old roller coaster and we're strapping in for it. And the ACC is helping with that. Our second key player, dun 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 dun, the prefrontal cortex, of course, is the CEO of our brain. It's nestled right behind our forehead. And the PFC, prefrontal cortex, is where all the magic happens when it comes to decision making, planning, and self control. And so you can think of it as the brain's command center, orchestrating complex cognitive tasks and helping you stay focused on your goals. So these brain regions don't work in isolation. They're constantly communicating and collaborating with each other to keep you on track and in balance. So when your ACC detects a little hiccup, a little error, your PFC swoops in to help you course correct and stay on target. So why are we talking about these brain regions? Well, there's a lot of processes that these brain regions are doing. They're constantly communicating with each other, and they're constantly picking up on external cues, on energies from other people, on what people are saying, what society's saying, and we're picking up on these subconscious beliefs, and then we're holding them as our own. So you might be acting in accordance to some of these subconscious things that our ACC and our PFC are picking up on. And so I just want to bring these to light so that you know what's going on behind the scenes is that the prefrontal cortex and the anterior cingulate cortex are both playing a major role in consciously being aware and then also taking all of these subconscious cues and letting them manifest in our subconscious body to play out certain actions and behaviors. So when we're conscious of that, that's what's going on, then we can shift and change. So, what can you do besides these journal prompts in order to start making real change in your life? Let's talk about it in our next segment called Brain Hack of the Day. Brain Hack of the Day. So, our brain hack of the day, of course, we want to brain dump and stream of consciousness right out the answers to some of these journal prompts that I gave you in the transformation tactics. But it's also important to take the witness perspective. Now, in order to really see your shadow self, we have to look from a bird's eye view. So, how do we do this? We start to witness ourselves. You can duplicate yourself and just watch you go through your life. Imagine that you're a witness behind the glass, almost as if you're just looking in and seeing yourself go through the motions of your life. And you get to start to see, what are your thought patterns? What are your behaviors? What are your actions? What are you doing? Just from this outside point of view. And that'll help give you some insight of, whoa, okay, I'm holding myself back there. Or wow, that's an interesting thought that I'm thinking. And wow, okay, I'm witnessing some of these old thought patterns and behaviors that I didn't even know were there. So the witness perspective is really interesting, and you can even try it on right now during this podcast to see what's going on underneath the surface. If you need help with the witness perspective, I give some really cool tips and tricks in my free Mindset Magnet workshop. This will really help you tap into this perspective to see what's underneath the surface. So you can sign up for the Mindset Magnet workshop in the description. Just click on that link, sign up for it, and you'll get it right to your email inbox for free. So definitely take a look at that. There's no harm, no foul, and it'll be another step towards your dream goals and life. So I'm happy to give you that free resource. Now, we've talked about so much today, a lot about shadow work. I can go on and on and on, but let's wrap it up here and let's summarize in our fulfillment fast track. So, Shadow Work 101 is digging into the hidden parts of ourselves that are influencing our behaviors without us even really truly realizing it. That's ultimately what shadow work is. And how we dive in, it's with this flashlight. We're putting the daggers down and we're shining light on these shadowy parts with a curious mind instead of a judgmental mind. So why does shadow work matter? It's because if you've been going after something and just shining light on, yes, I can do it, patience, I'm amazing, I have all these strengths, I gotta just go after it. You might also be self-sabotaging if you're not aware of some of these shadowy parts that are hindering you from getting towards your goal. So if you've been wanting certain things in your life and you're like, why aren't they coming to fruition? It might be because you have these shadowy parts that we need to shine light on in order to transmute them and really move forward. We also talked about the brain's role with our anterior cingulate cortex and the prefrontal cortex and how they're constantly picking up cues and information, and we're consciously thinking of it, and we're also subconsciously storing lots of these cues too. We also talked about our journal prompts and our witness perspective as tools to help you shine light on our shadows in order to move through them and move forward and think differently and act differently. So getting into that witness perspective and doing these journal prompts will help you make real lasting change starting today. And again, if you're wanting more help, definitely take a look at my Freedom Fast Track membership, my VIP Freedom Fast Track Accelerator, or take a look at my Mindset Magnet freebie, that workshop that will help you start to get into the witness perspective to start to transmute some of these shadows that you already got going on. But that is all for today. I can't believe it. Time flies when we're having fun. So thank you so much for joining me on Radically Rewired today to continue this beautiful journey of self-exploration with me. hit that subscribe button and sign up for my newsletter to get brain hacking tips and next episode alerts right to your email inbox. You can sign up with the link in the description. If you've enjoyed this podcast, I would be so appreciative if you could share it with a friend and leave a raving review, because that will help others see this podcast and listen to all of the lovely little tidbits and insights to help them start to transmute their shadows and continue on their most aligned path. So I would be so grateful if you could just take a moment and drop a review. This episode was made possible by my generous sponsor, Amplify Your Voice. For more detailed episode notes, take a look in the description. And as always, every episode of Radically Rewired is a step towards getting off autopilot and soaring towards your dreams. So I'm so grateful that you're here, taking another step towards a life that feels deeply fulfilling. I can't wait to see you in the next episode, and let's continue on this transformative journey together, my friends. Until next time, keep rewiring, keep thriving, and keep shining. Much love. Bye.